Welcome to another edition of the Will Be Blood Fight Show. I'm your host, Dave Duenas. Okay, this is just a mailbag. I get a lot of emails and questions, even topics. If I haven't got your question, or I haven't got your topic, or your fantasy pick of fighters and stuff, I will. I'm just trying to line everything up and all that to keep the show going and keep it interesting, okay? So I will eventually get to what you email me, okay? Don't think I'm just tossing and decide or anything like that. I read them all and I go through them and stuff, and then I kind of pick and choose and see which one's going to fit at what particular time, okay? So anyways, let's get down to some questions that were emailed to me. I'm not going to throw their names out and stuff like that because I don't know if they really want their name out there and stuff, but I'll just bring up a question that was emailed to me and I'll answer them as best as I can, okay? I've actually received a couple of them. That's another reason too, was I guess a lot of people's thoughts of Oscar Delahoya, if he gets past Manny Pacquiao on December 6th, there's already been talk about maybe Margarito pulling out of the November 1st fight with Joshua Kaladi, that there's a possibility of them maybe meeting up in Mexico. Now, there's some folks are saying, who do you think is going to win this fight? And someone gave me a pretty good in detail of the reason why they think Oscar will win it. They made some comparisons to him outboxing Trinidad, outboxing Sugar Shane Mosley the second time around, really outboxing Bernard Hopkins until the 9th round, right? Okay, so who do I think would win that fight? That's pretty much the question was, okay? Realistically, Oscar is not of the old, if this was a fight that was set in 1999, the time when Oscar De La Hoya had faced Tito Trinidad, where Oscar really did outbox Tito for 8 to 9 rounds and gave up 3 rounds by just, backpedaling through the fight, and where the decision obviously went to Tito, okay? If that was Oscar now, I would right away pick Oscar De La Hoya facing Margarito. Margarito just being a very big but really slow technician, I think he would have a lot of difficulty with a 1999 Oscar De La Hoya. But this ain't the 1999 Oscar De La Hoya. This is a guy that is now more slower, not in hand speed, but in footwork, okay? We haven't seen him really use his legs. And when he did with Bernard Hopkins, you got to remember, he ran out of gas, and he started kind of trapping himself in those ropes and stuff, And Bernard was able to get him with some good shots and started really, putting the pressure on him being a bigger man. So you would kind of have to see that happening with Oscar De La Hoya facing Margarito. Margarito would probably be outboxed for 4 or 5 rounds, but just as he did to Miguel Cotto, the later rounds are going to be the most telling rounds for Margarito. I can't really see Oscar really holding back Margarito with these shots that Oscar has and stuff, with the jab. I think the jab would eventually disappear after the 3rd or 4th round. Oscar will make the mistake and stand there and trade with Margarito. Now, saying that Margarito will knock out Oscar De La Hoya, man, that's a big one. You know what I mean? Because Oscar De La Hoya has taken some really vicious hits from big punchers. Tito Trinidad was one of the biggest punchers, in history and stuff. And when it comes to punching department, that's going to be more Tito. Margo is just a volume puncher, a guy that applies so much pressure that he literally breaks you down physically and mentally. This is a guy that, if you watch when he fought Cotto, this guy literally, after they would separate him, he would run right at Cotto, And it was like, hey, I took your best shots, now I'm coming back at you to take some more so I can land mine. So mentally, he breaks you down, you know what I mean? He just takes you out of the whole loop of the game. So, that being said, De La Hoya is just going to have the most difficult time with Margarito. His legs are going to give out on him. Trust me, Delahoya is a very intelligent fighter. So he already knows the road. He's been in the game for so long. He has faced so many different types of fighters, throughout the whole world. Being in the Olympics, Pan Games, World Games, Pro. I mean, this guy has fought pretty much every style that you can think of, okay? That he knows the right B and A and C plan to fight Margarito. But knowing it and being able to perform it are two different things. So I say his legs betray him, and I say that in the later rounds Margarito catches up to him and breaks him apart. Knocking him out, no, but I think that it would be such a beating so bad that maybe the corner would jump in and stop it, or the ref stops it for him. So that is really my take about it. I like Oscar. I've always liked Oscar. I'm a big Oscar De La Hoya fan, first off. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, folks, Oscar's this and he's that, he's the big this, and because he ain't going to face Margarito. You know what? Oscar's always been a good businessman. So there is a major possibility he may be facing him, Cinco de Mayo, where he would possibly face Margarito. And he's probably letting it just brew up more and more, where people, more and more fight fans and media are going to just be salivating over this fight, and they're going to be shouting for this fight. Like they're already, and there's a lot of people now that are, really going crazy, like, hey, what is he doing? Fight Margarito, fight Margarito. And I think what he's doing is just letting the pan heat up a little bit more. So it makes him much more than what it is now. And he makes just much more money. There's, a lot of folks like, oh, he's got enough money. There's never enough money, man. There's never enough money, okay? So anyway, that's my thought about De La Hoya versus Margarito. Okay, I had a couple other questions too that were sent out to me and stuff about, do I think that Miguel Cotto, is he going to be the same again? And who do you think's knockout was worse, Miguel Cotto's or Amir Khan? Well, obviously both knockouts were completely different. Khan was knocked out. Cotto was beaten down. So really, Cotto wasn't knocked out. He was just beaten up. He was beaten up to the point where himself physically in his corner had to jump in and really save him from being beaten anymore. I don't think the kid was going to get knocked out, to tell you the truth. I think he was going to, that guy has so much pride. And pride can really put you in more danger than having a glass chin, okay? A glass chin gets you caught and laid out, and then you wake up and you're like, what happened, right? But a guy that has so much pride and so much will is willing to go through the fire and get 98 degrees burned because he believes that 2% he has a chance of changing the fight where he walks away the winner. So whether Cotto comes back the same, I'm going to have to say not completely. I think right away it's going to take some time for him to reform himself. Let's think back Fernando Vargas. Let's think back Mailbag Taylor. There are some fighters that don't come back, but then there are fighters that do come back. This is a guy that's really he's really mentally strong. Not, just physically and great boxing skills, but this is a guy really that he's very strong-willed in the mind, okay? So when I think of Miguel Cotto, I think of, what? I wish him the best, and I hope he comes back. Because not only, he comes back, he brings a lot of good to the sport, but he is good for the sport. Right? So the difference between Khan and him are just, it doesn't really mix, okay? Two different knockouts, two different situations. Khan's situation is box. He's got so much talent in his hands and his footwork, but he doesn't use it. He wants to be the exciting guy. Go in there and try to punch with a puncher, hook with a hooker. You can't do that. So he's got to really go back to the drawing board and work on his flaws and really be a more protected fighter than he was before, so that he doesn't get knocked out with that jaw of his. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of chandeliers in there, so he's got to put some insurance on that, making sure he doesn't get re-shattered again. So that's my thought. I hope I answered your question on that one.